don't talk about money or sex in America.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Money Is Show. And today's going to be an incredible show as I got a guest that's a former Navy SEAL, which is unique because today as we record this is actually Veterans Day. And as we're going to break down a lot of leadership skills that he formed and created as a Navy SEAL and then applies them to businesses today. He's trained small businesses all the way up to companies of $3 billion of revenue. So we're going to try to crack at this code of how leadership works and how you can optimize your business as well. His name's Larry Yatch. And Larry, I appreciate you being on the show today. Excited to have you. And I'd probably say almost a little bit nervous too to have you on the show today.
It's okay. I'll take care of you. I'll keep you safe.
That's actually what I'm more worried about is that you're going to take care of me.
Exactly.
And we had a great time.
Just watch yourself. We'll be okay.
We had a great time talking. Larry, I know you got books that you have and courses and consulting that you've built out. And before we get into all that, and I want to go into the Navy SEAL background as well. Before we get in that, just give me a little bit of the viewers here, a little bit of background of what was it like growing up, Larry? Where'd you grow up at? What was it like growing up?
So I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, right in the city.
Yeah.
For me, I was a little skinny kid. So yeah, I'm 6'3", 200 pound, badass Navy SEAL now. But that was not always the case. I would have been voted least likely to be a Navy SEAL out of high school. Yeah, I was 5'2", 107 pounds in high school.
And did you graduate at that?
I graduated at 6'3", so I grew almost a foot between my junior and senior year, but I put hardly any weight on, so I graduated at 155.
Still a string bean.
Yep, yeah, and a dork, a nerd. Oh yeah, because it all started for me in third grade with Top Gun. I saw Top Gun and decided while I was in the movie theater I was going to be a fighter pilot. I found out that all the best fighter pilots came from the Naval Academy, so before third grade was done, I was 100% convinced I'm going to the Naval Academy to be a fighter pilot. And obviously not a lot of kids want to be a fighter pilot, but not many know about the Naval Academy. And I started working at that point towards that. So yeah, I was, big story for me as to why I became a SEAL is I was bullied really badly.
I was going to ask you that because you grew up skinnier, 5'3",
skinny, dork,
right?
Not normal.
Was
strange.
There bullying there?
Oh yeah, all through middle school.
Wow.
And then went to an all-boys Catholic high school, and it started all over again as soon as I got there. And so for my whole life, I never fit in, and I've always been not normal, and picked on for that. And that when I found out about the SEALs about 7th grade, a friend of mine gave me a sweatshirt that said Navy SEALs on it. And this would have been late 80s, so no one knew what a Navy SEAL was back then. No, not at all. And good little dork that I was, I went off to the library to look up Navy SEALs because he bought it just because it said Navy and it had a cool logo. And so I went to the library and found a book called The Men with Green Faces. So it was a Vietnam era SEAL book. And by the end of the book, I was convinced that fighter pilots were pansies and I needed to be a Navy SEAL. Oh yeah, and even the regular fighter pilots were pansies compared to these Navy SEALs. And so the thing for me was being able to hunt bullies down, to be, the hardest, toughest thing in the world, be able to hunt bullies for a living and be able to jump out of planes, blow stuff up, play with guns. I was like, I'm sold, this is for me. But literally no one would have believed it.
Well, I'm sitting here thinking, when I obviously no military background or whatsoever, but when I think about a Navy SEAL, and I've seen those TV shows where they have the behind the scenes training and stuff, and the amount of athletic ability and endurance and climbing and all the stuff they do, right? I think of a super athletic, almost jock in high school that went on to do that. And you're coming from the standpoint of you were the kind of the
skinny nerd
that was being bullied. But then you made the Navy SEALs, and I mean the amount of people that get cut or drop out, I should say, from the Navy SEAL training is astronomical, right? Yeah,
my class started, so I went in, I chose to go through a winter class, which was bad choice. It's not a good choice, but I was like, if I'm going to go through this, I'm doing it the hardest way possible, which has been a theme in my life, right? So started in, it would have been late September of 1998, and graduated in late April, early May. So it just got colder and more miserable.
Where?
In San Diego.
Okay, San Diego, okay.
Yeah, so our class started with 135 guys, and 6 months later, we graduated 11.
11
Yeah, 11 of the original 135.
is what was the graduating class
Yep.
stuff. Is that pretty common?
For winter class, they stopped holding what they refer to as Hell Week, which is for us, it was the 5th week of training,
Okay.
where you start Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, and it's constant physical activity. You're constantly being yelled at. You're constantly soaking wet. For first time we got a chance to take a break was Wednesday afternoon. And we got the chance to sleep for 30 minutes on an open-sided tent on the beach in San Diego in 40-degree weather.
Yeah.
And so you didn't sleep much, just laid on a cot and shook. And we didn't get secured till Friday afternoon at 2 o'clock. So you're going nonstop for 5 days straight. So they stopped holding that in the winter because we lost half our class in that 1 week. We went from 60 to 30 in 1 week.
In that Hell Week, right?
In that Hell Week. So for classes that were winter classes like mine, 10% success was about right.
About where it normally came
Yeah,
in
and normally like they average 20%, 20 to 25 at the most. So
how
the
did
vast majority will not make it.
how did you go from skinny nerd into badass Navy SEAL in that transition? Like, did you work out or do something athletic first? Did you end up playing sports in high school though?
I played any sport they let me on.
Okay.
Because I needed to pad my resume to get into the Naval Academy.
Okay.
Getting into the Naval Academy, we had 12,000 applicants for 1,200 spots. It was the year I got in. It was the 3rd hardest school in the country to get into,
Okay.
and so I had to pad my resume.
Sure.
So I did any sport that would let me on. I wrestled and I joined wrestling my freshman year in high school in Pennsylvania. Those kids have been wrestling since they were 3,
That's
right? They just
life-saving.
tied me in
Penn
knots.
State. Yeah.
Yeah, it was horrible. And then I joined the cross country team, joined the swimming team. The swimming team, I swam not that well, so they said, well, why don't you dive? So okay, I'll dive. I didn't know how to dive. My first dive, I almost landed on the pool deck in a competition. Then I joined the track team. I wasn't that fast running, so the track team, oh, you're the diver, you can pole vault. So they gave me a pole vault, told me to figure it out. So I just sucked at everything I did, but all I did was work hard at it, and I'd get okay, but never very good. So fast forward getting into SEAL training. So I remember the first day of training, we're still in our dress uniforms. Like, this was just to show up. And someone does some fake infraction that they're doing. The instructors start yelling at you, and you have to drop to do push-ups. So you have to drop to do 10 push-ups. But you have to do it as a team. You have to do it all at the same time. You have 100 people, 130 people, and never done it before. So that turns into 3.5 hours of doing push-ups. There's guys that quit in that first 3 hours of training.
Wow.
And I remember one of the guys that quit he was like all-state football player or something. Like, he was the guy you're talking about. And he quit. And I remember the conversation the instructor was having with him, the yelling match, the conversation was when he was saying, so, hey, you're here, you haven't been doing this for more than 20 minutes. The guy's lying, he's been 3 hours. You can't do 10 push-ups, because at a certain point, no matter how strong you are, you can't do another push-up. You can't even do 10 push-ups. How are you possibly, we haven't even started training yet, how are you possibly going to finish in 6 months if you can't even do push-ups? And I remember watching this guy who was perfectly suited to be a SEAL,
Right.
Think about that, and he quit. Because he's like, yeah, I can't do that.
You're right, I can't do it.
Because he's always been good at everything.
Yeah.
He'd never really been challenged. I mean, he was always the star.
Right.
And for the first time in his life, he couldn't do something. He quit. Instructor comes to me. I couldn't do push-ups either at this point. It was like, you suck, you're never gonna do this. And I chuckled, wrong move, don't laugh at the instructors. Why are you laughing? Like, another day of Larry sucking at something? Like, I got this. I know how to suck at stuff. Like, okay, make fun of me. I'll do as many push-ups as I can. So SEAL training is 100% mental.
Okay.
Everyone that shows up day one has the physical capabilities to finish training. So if you quit, it isn't because you were physically insufficient, it's because you mentally couldn't handle it. It's the ability to self-regulate.
Yeah.
So being a kid that got picked on, that was never good at any sports, like, oh, this is just Tuesday. Larry sucking? Yeah, Tuesday, I got this.
I got you. That's unique, man. So you go through Navy SEAL, you graduate with 11 people in your class from 130 after 6 months of it. Talk to me about deployment. Do you get deployed?
So I graduated in 1999, and there's nothing going on in the world in 1999. And so I chose to go to SEAL Team 3, which was responsible for the Middle East. And my guess was that if anything goes down in the future, it's going to be in the Middle East, and that's where I want to be. And
can I ask you a question? I mean, did you join for the purpose of, like, SEAL Team 3, did you join that for that purpose? Like, if 100%. War goes, like, I want to be where the war's at?
Yeah, 100%. And you got to think about it. We're professional athletes. I mean, we're no different than an NFL team. Imagine an NFL team that practices for 18 months and then doesn't get to play a game.
Right.
You know, we didn't even get to scrimmage. You get the most frustrated people in the world, and frustrated SEALs, they just break stuff.
Yeah.
And so all of us just want to go to war.
You want the war. You want, or not the war. You want the combat. You want to go.
Yeah, we used to say pray for war. Like,
wow.
Because we get to do our jobs.
Wow.
And I mean, I saw two guys fighting once, and like break them up. Why are they fighting? There's one spot left to go on a very dangerous mission, and they're fighting over who gets to go.
Wow. 1999, you graduate. Navy SEAL Team 3.
Yeah, so I go to Team 3. My first deployment was in would have been the fall, winter, and early summer of 2000 to 2001.
Okay.
So I deployed to the Middle East, and the only thing that was going on at this point was Saddam was smuggling oil out of Iraq on illegal oil vessels, and our job was to take those vessels. And so even my first deployment in what was peacetime was very active. And I had the honor of innovating a new way to breach these vessels, and it was written up in a book. I had a whole chapter written about this tactical innovation that
you kind of created. Innovation.
Yeah, it was these vessels would be armored with steel all over the place, and we would normally saw through the doors to get in, but they had gotten really good at doing 2 layers of steel. They'd electrify railings. They'd put barbed wire up. They'd do whatever they could to keep us from getting inside, because if they got into Iranian territorial waters, we'd have to get off. So it was just a time game. And I designed a system of going to the roof of these boats. So we're talking 300, 400, 500,000 foot vessels with 200 to 200 foot towers that they drive with. So I'd climb to the top of the roof and then climb over the front with a series of ropes, saw through steel bars on the front windows, break through the windows, climb through the windows, secure anyone that was on that deck, and then open the doors for the guys to get in.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it was eventually called the Yatch entry. And
was it really?
Yeah,
I
got to teach. Yeah, I got to teach all the other teams how to do this. It was really cool, and this was my first deployment.
Wow.
And we got back. So we got back from that, and 3 days later, September 11th happened.
9/11 hits, and you're back in the States at that point?
Yeah, we got back on the 7th of September, and 9/11 happened. Our team was the only team that was on ready to deploy, so we got put on call to go respond. Mm-hmm. So we were on a 12-hour recall for months, meaning we had to be within 12 hours of getting on a plane and going overseas, and that lasted for 2-3 months, and then another team got up, and they got deployed to Afghanistan. So we ended up staying and then retooling for the next deployment.
With your training that you do now, with your business that you have, are you, I'm assuming, using a ton of the Navy, the leadership that you used and went through inside of it? Yeah,
so it's most of our clients think that what we're teaching was taught to me as a SEAL, and what I wish it was. Like, I wish they would have taught me that. It would have made my life a hell of a lot easier. What was interesting is being in a team where you have individuals that are the best in the world, right? I mean, they are the best in the world at their job. On top of that, they are as strong as you can imagine, and they know that if it's humanly possible, they can do it. And the word quit doesn't exist in their life. So on a team like that, as a leader, so I was an officer, so I was in charge of the team, you ask someone to do it and they do it 100% of the time. Like that was just the thing, like, hey, Andrew, can you do this for me? Yeah, Larry, I got it. And you do it, and usually you do it 10% better than I expected, sometimes 40% better.
Right.
And that was just normal. And then I get out of that environment, I start a business and I hire a team and I can't get them to take the garbage out. Like, hey, can you take out the garbage? Yeah, sure. And then they don't. Well, the dumpster was locked. Well, did you ask for a key? That was 3 days ago. No, I just didn't do it. And then they need you to tell them, like, good job and thank you for doing a mediocre job. Like, my head would explode. I had one guy tell me at least twice a week, I need you to tell me I'm doing a good job. And I said, well, what if you're not? He's like, yeah, I know, that's why. Because if you tell me I'm doing a good job, then maybe I'll do a good job. I'm like, my head just exploded. Because if I told one of my SEALs they were doing a good job, they'd get mad at me because they knew, yeah, of course I'm doing a good job. Tell me what to do better. So it was this dichotomy of, why did this work so well, and why is the civilian world it's so hard to get someone to do the job? And so what I did was reverse engineer.
Okay.
So I looked at, well, what are the teams that are operating in the civilian world doing, and what did we do? And what I identified is, holy crap, it's very different. Like, this environment, this structure, how we pass and hold responsibilities, how we communicate, how we give each other feedback, how our concepts of leading versus managing are just 180 degrees different than what's in the civilian world. So I then utilized that model to design systems that would work in the civilian world. So it really came through solving problems in my own business, as opposed to just taking lessons from the SEALs.
Yeah, because obviously we naturally kind of hear it, you think you're using lessons from a SEAL.
Oh yeah, like, this is...
Now that you mention it, like, none of those would actually probably work in civilian world, because you're not dealing with the greatest
high-functioning people.
High-functional alpha producer that's going to do his job no matter what happens. He'll do it or he'll die type of mentality. You're dealing with almost the opposite of it.
It is the opposite. And also the mindsets and structures that have been taught into business world comes from the Industrial Revolution, which is run in factories. And we no longer run factories. So the same leadership and management structures of running factories don't work on the teams that we run today, because the teams that we run today we're in a dynamic environment that changes all the time. We're in often high risk environments, right? If we get something wrong, it's going to be bad. It's going to go bad. In a factory, if someone messed up a car, it didn't make a difference, right? It was a slow, big moving machine. And so the tactics of a special operations unit, the structures of that are much more suited for businesses of today than the outdated Industrial Revolution structures. But so everything you've been taught about leadership is backwards. It literally doesn't work well. And we can see that with organizations that don't run well.
When you dive in these different organizations, all different levels you've scaled and managed and worked through, spoke at their conferences and so forth, what do you see as one of, like, the main reasons that stops that company, small business, we even call it, from growing?
So this is going to be two answers, right? Okay. Because at a certain point, the answer is going to shift, and what that point is established business, right? Okay. So when you have companies that are established, and generally that established means at least 10 million a year, usually it's a little bit bigger than that. And within that, all the core stuff's kind of working okay. That's going to be a different answer, which I'll answer in a minute. But for most businesses under that, say, $20, $30 million a year mark, there's one core problem that's answered with two solutions. And the core problem is they don't know how to coordinate action well.
Okay.
So if we just look at it, the only way for us to produce success in this world is through coordination of action with others. Okay. And we can look at this, like, look in your life where you have some struggle or some strife or some it's just not working, and I guarantee there's someone you're not coordinating action well with. Look at the place where you're seeing the most success in your life, you're coordinating action well with others. So that ability to coordinate action well with others, the ability to team, is the core driver of our success in life as an individual or as a business. And companies under that $10, $20 million a year mark, they just don't know how to coordinate action well with each other. And that usually comes down to communication and delegation.
Okay.
Right? The ability to communicate effectively and the ability to delegate responsibilities is the purpose of a team, and they just don't do it that well. So that's the biggest limiters to growth, is the behavior of the individuals on the team and their ability to coordinate action. How do we solve that? You got to solve communication. You got to solve the ability to hold and pass responsibility.
When you talk about on that level of business right there, you talk about
Yeah.
the communication side, and then you have the delegation side.
Yep.
Talk to me a little bit about the communication side. Why? So for me, I tend to be more of a visionary type person, and I struggle with the operational side of things.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the communication of how, maybe from an example standpoint of how your company goes in, kind of helps sets the tone or fix or adjust the communication side.
So the biggest piece, the biggest lever for the communication we need. So again, if I'm just going to walk you down this path, our ability to produce success is dependent on our ability to team, right?
Okay.
Success is the accomplishments that we produce and the feeling it is in producing them. And that's a huge, if there's one message to entrepreneurs out there that are listening, if you're producing accomplishments, but you're miserable doing it, thinking someday I'm going to be able to enjoy this success, you're missing the boat. And that's what most of us are taught, right? I got to work hard and struggle. That's why that whole hustle thing,
Mentality.
I don't like it.
Right.
So what, I hustle for 30 years and then someday I get to enjoy my life? Well, what if you die? I lived in a world where death was going to be any second.
Right.
So shifting that mindset from a concept of I have to struggle today to have success tomorrow into the fact that success is optimizing today and making it sustainable, that changes the whole journey. So we have to produce accomplishments and make it fun, enjoyable along the way. Is my experience of producing my success good, or is my experience of producing my success miserable? Then am I really successful? No. So that piece, that ability to produce success, depends on the team. And when it comes to the team, behavior is the most important part of the team, right? We either have behaviors that work or behaviors that don't. So when it comes to communication, the tool that we need to optimize is what I refer to as feedback.
Okay.
So feedback is where I'm able to give you feedback on changing your behavior. You're able to ask me for feedback on what behaviors I need to change. I'm able to listen to you about feedback you're giving me so I can change my behavior. If we can do that, right, if we can effectively give each other feedback and listen to it and implement it, then our behavior changes. We coordinate action better. We produce success, both in the experience of it and in the long-term accomplishments. So that was a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. I want to maybe come back and simplify maybe a simple question for the viewers. Maybe not a simple question, but for the viewers here. A lot of them that are watching, listening right now may obviously probably don't fall into the bucket of a $10 million empire, right? Let's say those that are watching are in the process of starting off, or they just got going, right? Maybe they still work a full-time job and they're just trying to launch their business. I want to talk to you about fear, and how does this person that just cannot seem to pull the trigger, take action, they've thought about doing business for 10, 20 years, right? How would you tell them to, in a quick method, how to overcome fear?
So the first piece is that the principles that enable a company to be 10 million, 100 million, a billion are the same, right? They're fundamentally sound. So everything that we've talked about, yes, it applies to a $10 million a year empire, and it 100% applies to you as an individual that is just starting out. So I don't want anyone to think, oh, this isn't for me.
There's different sets of rules for
No,
this or that.
it isn't. The fundamentals are the same. Success, it means the same thing. It's dependent on teams. Your behavior determines the teams. Your ability to communicate determines your behavior. Like, those things are fundamental. When it comes to fear, people would look at me and say I'm fearless, right?
Okay.
I've done things that normal people couldn't even comprehend, right? I've been in environments for upwards of years, a year at a time, where I was under my life was under constant threat. And so you'd look, oh, you're fearless. The reality is that no, I am one of the most scared people in the world. The key to this, 100% key to this, is that courage cannot be shown without fear.
Okay.
Because we mostly think of, oh, Larry's courageous, he doesn't feel fear. Bullshit. I feel fear all the time. I just take action despite the fear. So courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage isn't being fearless. Courage is taking action despite fear. So those of you with the most fear have the biggest opportunity to be courageous. Like, that's a game changer alone.
Okay.
Like, you shouldn't be embarrassed about your fear. Fear comes in two sides. One is necessary, this keeps me safe, and unnecessary, this hampers me.
Okay.
So those with unnecessary fear, that's just your subconscious telling you can't do something. And the way to get over that is to develop more power. Like, I can do stuff. The way that we do that is learn, practice, and gain experience. So if you're stuck not being able to start your business, the first place to go always is learn. Okay. You gotta learn. Now, learning's good, but if I don't implement it, it's useless. That's where we gotta practice. If we practice, we gotta be able to fail. If we're able to fail safely, we can start gaining experience, which gives us confidence. When we have confidence, we can take action despite fear. So that recipe is, one, honor your fear. This is an opportunity to stay safe or enable me to show courage. How do I show courage despite the fear? I need to learn, practice, and gain experience.
So if they're watching and they're stuck in this level of they can't move forward, you're saying learn, take action,
practice,
and
gain experience,
and then gain experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
and practice meaning learning how to fail, because you mentioned fail inside of it.
So what's the difference between practice and experience?
Yeah.
Is the ability to fail without consequence.
Okay.
Right? Because if I'm gaining experience, that means that if I fail, there's some consequence.
Right.
Practice is I can fail without big consequence.
Okay.
Most people skip that step, right?
Right.
I go from, I learned something, then I'm going to go try and do it out in the world, and if I mess up, it's going to hurt. No wonder you're scared. No wonder you're in inaction. You're not taking action. So it's up to me to figure out, how can I implement my learning in an environment where I can fail? We used to say crawl, walk, run.
Right.
Like, even though we were the best in the world, when we went to do some training, we would start walking through the room with rubber guns, right, even though we're the best marksmen in the world, because that's the crawl phase.
Right.
We're going to get this right. Now we're going to add a little bit of risk to it, but make sure we're still safe. We're practicing. And then we get into full-blown live fire, bullets coming at us in training, where if you stand in the wrong place, you die. Right? Because now I have the confidence to take that skill into battle. So this takes some planning.
Right. I want to tell you about that. You mentioned the subconscious mind a while ago and the conscious mind. And if you can, kind of unpack what that means to the viewers between subconscious and conscious mind.
So we have, I believe, two minds, right? And you have the conscious and the subconscious mind, and they process different amounts of information and different types of information. So your conscious mind, the mind that I'm aware of, that's normally that voice in your head that's telling you stuff. Okay. That conscious mind processes 40 data points a second. 40
data points per second.
So that's not a lot.
Okay.
It's still fast, but not a lot. The subconscious mind processes 11 million data points a second.
So the subconscious, 11 million data points per second. Give me an example, maybe, of a data point.
So if you're sitting here watching this, what do your shoes feel like on your feet right now? Or think about, what's it smell like where you are? Right? Before I brought that up, you were not aware of that your feet were hot, or they were cold, or that the shoes were too small. You weren't aware of the smell that was in the room. Your nose and your feet are constantly sending those messages to your brain, and your brain's processing them in the background. That's why it's 11 million. So every nerve in your body is sending a signal to your brain. Your brain has to process that. Okay. That's subconscious. Conscious is going to be the where my attention and focus is in the moment. As soon as I said, what do your feet feel like? Your attention went to that, and your 40 data points of conscious thought went to that area. So it's a very tiny little piece of the overall information that the body and the brain has. When it comes to then what's creating your world, like, why is this important, is that data is just used by our brain to make choices. So our conscious mind gets 40 data points a second, and it gets to make choices. How many choices does it make, let's say, a minute? if you think about it, how many conscious choices, like I'm consciously choosing to pick up this cup, how many conscious choices do I make a minute? 1 or 2. Sometimes, when you're driving, you drive and you're like 45 minutes, you end up at home, you don't know how the hell you got here.
Yeah.
That was 45 minutes without a conscious choice. So your conscious mind's making 1 conscious choice a minute. Your subconscious mind is making thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of choices every minute. Should I blink? Should I not blink? Should I take a breath? Am I feeling fear now because there's people watching this? Right? That is a subconscious thought that's controlled by the 11 million. That's a choice. Those choices, those hundreds of thousands of choices end up creating our world. So our world is actually created by our subconscious as opposed to our conscious. Now, how does this apply to the person watching? Like, this is the big piece. So you put yourself in a world where you feel fear so that you'll be safe and not take action to start your business. Because your subconscious is worried that if you start your business, you're gonna have risk and something bad's gonna happen. So your subconscious makes sure that you feel fear, you get obstacles put in your way, you don't have enough money, you don't have the right information, you don't have a website, whatever that is, your subconscious creates to make sure you stay stuck. And go ahead.
Why does the subconscious want you to stay stuck?
Because your subconscious's job is to keep you safe. That's it.
That's the main role of it, if you will.
Yeah. Notice I didn't say have you be happy, fulfilled.
The subconscious
doesn't care about being happy, fulfilled, or anything. Your
Success,
conscious does.
nothing.
Money, nothing. Your subconscious just wants you to be safe. So your subconscious wants everything to be the same. Because as soon as something changes, there's risk. And your subconscious doesn't like that. So it's going to create worlds that put obstacles in your way so you don't take action.
So your subconscious mind is there to try to keep you safe.
That's it.
In life in general. Because it's getting more data points fed to it, say 11 million data points. And in the example, say it's making 100,000 choices in a minute versus consciously 1 choice in a minute.
Yeah.
The 100,000 choices is actually what's dictating your actual world that you're living in.
It creates your world.
It creates the world that you're in right now.
And your subconscious would rather create a world that you're unhappy in, but safe.
It's okay with that. It's actually perfect with that.
Yeah, and a perfect example is a battered woman.
Okay.
A woman that's in abusive, man, it doesn't make a difference.
Sure.
So I had a horrible first marriage where I was emotionally abused on a regular basis. So it isn't man or woman, but when you're in a relationship where you're used to being abused, right, that becomes normal, right? That's the normal. Now I have the opportunity to leave. Well, that's scary. What's going to happen next? So you'll see it over and over again where the battered person will come back to the same traumatic environment because they know how to navigate that. Like I know how to navigate when my spouse is a jerk, when they yell at me, when they hit me, like I know what to do. And I'd rather stay in this bad environment that I have tools to deal with rather than going to a new environment where I don't know what to do, even if I want consciously to be over there. And that's why, with business owners, or people that want to start businesses, they just get stuck, right? They aren't going to take that action because the subconscious would rather you stay there in inaction, but safe because you're still alive, you're still breathing, you're still here, but I'm unhappy. Subconscious doesn't care.
Right. Subconscious wants you to be safe, irrelevant of the other consequences involved in it. And that's what's actually creating the world that we live in, if you will.
Right. All the problems that you have, you're choosing.
And so if they're watching not starting a business right now, wanting to do it for 9 years, what you're saying is most of it has to do with, if not all of it, has to do with the subconscious.
Believing
brain.
that it's safer.
Yeah, believing it and then putting hurdles in front of it so they don't go anywhere.
Which goes right back to our conversation around fear and courage. So what did I say was our ability to overcome fear is a perception of control. If I perceive that I have control, I can't be scared. How do I build a perception of control? I learn, I practice, I gain experience. Mm-hmm. By the time I'm gaining experience, I'm already in action.
Right.
When I'm in action, my world's changing, I'm still alive, my subconscious ends up having to change.
Talk to me about I'm going to go back to maybe like a trauma point, right? Something happens, you use a better woman, but let's apply it more to business maybe. business owner running his business, growing his business, man or woman, and they get to a point where they can't, they're maxed out. They can't grow anymore.
Right.
Is that a subconscious, conscious process they're going through right there?
So what we'd have to look at is there a structural problem with the company?
Okay.
Right, like that's where we don't do this, but other people do it all the time, right? Where they come in and like, oh, you have something structurally wrong with your company.
Mm-hmm.
Now, arguably, if your subconscious wasn't causing trouble, you would have seen that already. That's part of the reason it's really useful to have coaches, to have consultants, to have companies come in, because they're going to be able to see something that your subconscious is hiding from you.
Mm-hmm.
So could you make an argument the subconscious is causing those structural problems? Probably. Mm-hmm. But first thing would be structural. The second thing we're going to be looking at is what story are they in that is creating this same situation over and over and over again? And it's the same story they're going to tell themselves that, well, if I say I spend more money on marketing, or maybe I don't want to be on social media, because if I'm on social media, someone's going to judge me. I got made fun of as a kid. I don't want to get made fun of as again, so it's better if I just stay in the background, right? That's the subconscious creating that stuff. So we're going to make it so that when you post a video, you get, oh, see, no one likes my videos. Mm-hmm. See, I'm right, I need to not do that action. Mm-hmm. So it just creates that same cycle over and over again.
Last night, I was at dinner with a bunch of business owners, and all fairly successful business owners, and some of the conversation went to the crash, 2008 crash, right?
Yeah, when I started my first business.
That's right. You opened your business.
I opened my company in 2008.
And great timing of the market for you.
$1 million down the tubes.
It's like people opening a restaurant right now during
exactly.
COVID, right? So we're at the restaurant. We're talking about, the conversation goes to 2008 and how pretty much, I think everybody at the table, there's 5 or 6 of us, went through the crash.
Yeah.
And I believe all of us ended up losing the majority of everything in the crash. But then there was different outcomes of those conversations where, like, it was 2 of us, it almost, at least it was what everybody was saying, it didn't bother them to the point of, they just moved through it and then use it for motivation or whatever. And then 2 of them, it held them back, and still this day, they like do stuff in their business based off of what happened in 2008.
All 4 do.
All 4 do.
Yeah, 100%.
So even though the 2 that said they used the crash as an opportunity to grow, what you're saying is
some other aspect of their life or area of their life is being damaged by the downside of that trauma. Because the trauma is going to teach you some lesson, and you leverage that lesson to success, but it's also going to tell you some lie that you hold on to that's going to limit some part of your life.
Okay. So I don't know if I go down this road with you.
Well, let's
I was
do
one
it.
of the ones that said I used it as motivation.
Okay.
So I crashed, lost everything, and shortly thereafter, I don't know, 90 days, 4 months, whatever it was, I was back moving again.
Yeah.
And tried to use it as a learning tool, failing, figuring out where I went wrong at and how to adjust it, and then immediately started going back into business again. So I was one of those that said I use it as a tool, not as a hindrance. And you're saying there's still something there that trauma was created, and it's somewhere in there.
Did you at some point during that experience feel that you did not have control over what was going on in your life?
That I didn't have control. Don't break down a therapy session on me here, man. This
is a yes or no.
Did at
some point during that experience,
yes.
did you feel like I'm not in control?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That's trauma.
Okay.
You're being traumatized, right? So my definition of trauma is a bit different than traditional. Traditional is always like, well, I went to war. Or, I mean, if you lost all your assets, all your money, like most people be like, yeah, that's traumatic. Mm-hmm. It's people always point to the big things, but the common thing about those big things is a perception that I don't have control over what's going on in my life. Mm-hmm. And when that happens, when we get through that, we learn something. So something became true. When you were in that environment, right?
Okay.
What you lost everything. What came true for you in that situation? What did you learn? What was the little voice in your head saying?
At that moment in time?
Yeah, at that moment in time.
Of learning from it, is what you're saying.
Not even learn. You could say learning about what was the voice in your head saying? And this is the voice that isn't saying, hey, this is the greatest opportunity you have to go build again.
Yeah,
so
no,
it's the opposite voice.
Yeah, it would have been like, I remember blaming, I use the word blaming a lot of it like it was out of my control. Like I was saying, well, I can't control the market, I can't control.
Yeah, so I can't control the market. Say that's absolutely true. You can never control the market. What becomes true? So what? What else? What then comes from that? What's going to happen if you can't ever control the market?
If I can't control the market, I got to learn how to adapt my model, my business around, have that X factor.
You have to change. I have to continually adapt. I have to find something, change who I am in order to adjust for that. What if you don't? What if you can't do that? What's the little voice saying?
I'd probably be right back here again in the future.
Yeah, so this can happen again.
Right, yeah, when the market crashes.
And what if this happens again and again for you? What does it say about you? There's something bad that
I would be a moron
exists.
for not understanding and learning from this process.
Yeah, I'm an idiot.
I feel like a failure.
I need to be smart. I need to figure stuff out.
Right.
Yeah, so odds are from what you're saying, your big strength is I'm going to figure it out.
Right.
Like I'm going to totally figure this out all the time. On the downside of it is I need to continually change.
Yeah.
I need to change, I need to adapt, and I can't be still and stable. Mm-hmm. And that, I would imagine, where in your life do you create the situations where there's constant change?
Where there's constant change, and don't say girlfriends.
We nailed it.
No, see.
No, it would be like girlfriends, relationships.
Yeah.
Next deal, next business.
Yeah, I think that's the part I was going to go with. It was like always. I would build something in business and then get like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm gonna go to something else.
Yeah.
I'm done with this. I'm gonna go to something else. Process.
So that's probably same thing with girlfriends, right? Oh, I got to hear something else. Got to hear something else. See, we were talking earlier. You even picked a girl that was perfect that could never have a relationship with you because of trauma she had.
Right.
Like, look how good your subconscious is. Right, your subconscious chose this person that was damaged enough to result in never allowing you to have a good relationship.
Right, and you think the subconscious
is doing this over and over again. So you're constantly creating a world where I get to hear and then I got to do something else. I get to hear and do something else. Well, what would be true if you didn't have to change any of that?
ABC business continues to grow, develop.
Oh, it get huge. What would be true for your relationships if you didn't have to change? You didn't have to figure it out if you already knew.
Right. I would be married with kids.
Maybe if you want,
right.
But you'd have a loving, supportive relationship. So that's the other side of it, right? So we can see you're like, oh no, like I constantly learn, I constantly adapt, I hit it. That's your superpower, right? The kryptonite is, well, just to here and then I got to start over again. Just to here and I got to start over again. Now you're high functioning enough that here's pretty damn good, right? But what would be possible if you didn't start again? Like if it just kept going up? Relationship, family, business, it's pretty amazing.
So you're saying from the trauma of the crash, losing everything that was created there, the
lesson you learned. The scar, perfect.
There, right? You're saying because of those scars that are there, you went on the road of that created this constant emotion of change.
Need for change.
Need for change, because I had to change because the market was going to change. If I didn't change, it was going to create failure. So then it creates this
and I have no worth, no one's going to love me.
And all this is subconscious.
Oh yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Yeah, but obviously I've never thought through this process.
You couldn't, because your subconscious is going to hide it from you.
It hides it from you?
It has to, because this is its lifeblood, right? It knows that Andrew would have been dead, because it doesn't know that not having any money means you'll still be alive, most likely. But it thinks Andrew's going to be dead if he doesn't change, adapt, and learn.
Right.
He's going to die. Therefore, it now loves that. And it's going to use that over and over again. And you're good enough to create success using that tool. So you can even say, no, look how good I've done with this.
Right.
But the dark side of that lesson is, well, I can't stay in a relationship for more than 3 or 4 months. Right? I get a business to a certain point, and then I'm like, I'm out. Someone else has to take care of this. Right? And so that's where we start asking, well, okay, what would be true if I already knew the answer?
So let me ask you this. So if there's this trauma that's created would you say that a trauma, similar, like, whatever you want to say, is in everybody's life at some point?
If you've ever been in a situation where you perceived that you couldn't control what was going on around you, yes. And most of these were seated. Like if we had more time, you created the opportunity to lose everything in that crash of '08. That wasn't your first trauma, right? This got seeded when you were 6 or 7.
Okay.
And we would identify what that was. And because, do you know anyone that didn't lose everything in 2008?
Yeah, of course.
So they didn't have the trauma. You wanted that. Your subconscious created the space for that to happen. And someone else didn't, right? Because I know people that didn't do that as well. And so that's where we're saying if that core trauma happened when you were a kid, you've been recreating it. And because you're a strong, smart person, you got to learn hard. So you lose millions. Right?
So something happened wherever it was earlier that the subconscious is holding on to as a safe
zone. A tool. I know what to do.
It's not, we as the human can't know what it is, in the sense of it's not telling us what it is.
Because the smarter part of us are subconscious. 11 million data points, 200,000 choices a minute, right? It's not going to let us know because it'd give up its favorite tool.
And it's a tool that's using to keep you safe, which is its only purpose is to keep you safe.
Yeah, like the simple thing for me is being an officer in a combat environment with people I cared about. My reality was everything's going to go to shit, the mission's going to go to shit, people I love are going to be hurt, and it's all my fault. In wartime, that worked well. Like I was always on, I never missed anything. When I have a family and a business, that doesn't work well. Right, if I'm always worried about everything going to hell.
Your mindset or your subconscious?
Yeah, my wife's going to leave me, you know. And when you think about it, if I live in a world where my wife's always going to leave me, I'm always hurting her and it's my fault, my actions are going to create that, right?
Right.
I'm not going to, I'm going to wall off and not connect to her. I'm not going to tell her I love her all the time. Because if I did and she's going to leave, I'm going to get hurt. So what world do I create? One where she wants to leave.
But subconsciously, you're staying safe, basically.
Oh yeah, because my subconscious knows that for 10 years that I was in combat, if I live in this truth that everything's going to go to hell, people are going to get hurt, and it's my fault, you stay alive. And not only that, but I was one of the most successful officers I knew. So not only did I stay alive, but I did well. You know, when I got into business, like it worked for a certain point, but then it falls off.
Those 3 categories you went through for you, also in business.
So they insert
subconsciously all destroy.
Yeah, because I can only create something that is big enough that it's about to fail.
So then how does someone in business, let's just use business for the talking purposes, how does someone in business, if we all have, wherever it happened at, if we all have this ABC trauma that is subconsciously controlling with all the data points what we do, and its whole purpose to keep you safe, which is also allowing people not to go into business or to change business. In my example here, how do you fix the subconscious or reprogram the subconscious?
So there's all sorts of ways out there, right? And you know, everything from, because the purpose of trauma is to keep you out of the present, right? The trauma is to keep you in the past of what happened to me and in the future what's going to happen to me.
That's what the trauma is doing.
Yeah, think about it. Like if I got hurt once, that fear of getting hurt, it keeps me remembering getting hurt, so in the past, and worried about getting hurt again in the future. All
right, so it goes through just for business, the crash. So if you lost everything in some sort of business or whatever, you're saying that trauma that was created there,
you still think about it.
It's taking you in the past of how I lost, how I failed.
And worrying about losing everything again.
It's telling you you're worried about, because of that trauma, you're worried about the future as well.
Now, if I make choices today based on thinking about yesterday or tomorrow, is that the best choice for today? Probably not.
Yeah, there's no way,
right? So presence is what we need. So one tool would be meditation, right? Mindfulness, being able to get us out of the past and the future into this moment would be one tool. Now, to really heal trauma, that can take 30 years, right? Like you got to do intense meditation for a long time, but that at least helps. Like that'd be, because I don't want to leave people thinking I can't do anything about this. So
right.
one would be a mindfulness practice, a meditation practice. Which one? I don't know. Pick the one that works for you. If your traumas aren't that bad, therapy's going to help. Like actually going back and talking about this stuff could help. If your traumas are really bad, it gets a lot harder. And that's where there's alternative therapies. Part of what we're working on at the highest levels, because it's very resource intense, is working through some cutting edge stuff with CEOs on being able to leverage medical technology associated with therapy, associated with behavior change tools, and we're seeing amazing effects with that. So you can search out people do it, and there's tons of information about post-traumatic stress. But most people think post-traumatic stress is for me, the Navy SEAL. It isn't for the person that never had anything that big happen to them. Start reading some of that stuff and you can start identifying, oh, I'm doing that. And being able to start working back to those stories and then consciously change them is a way.
Kind of go off on maybe a side road here, but obviously I listen to Joe Rogan, quite a podcast quite a bit, and kind of in this thread he talks a lot about he's a big pusher, if you will, of mushrooms, and what it does to your brain. I'll just use the brain. Obviously shrooms are illegal, right? But on that process, is that where he's going down? Like, is that
so
kind of the road where he's headed?
There's a lot of science that's happening now, and there's a lot of progress being made on the use of different what are currently illegal drugs, from everything I refer to as empathogens. So empathogen works on your fear response, turning that off. So MDMA is an example of that. Then you have the psychedelics. Psychedelics are working on the neural pathway. They're all working on neural pathways, but working on different neural pathways that are changing how you perceive your world. So there's a whole mix from psilocybin, magic mushrooms. LSD is a chemical version of that. Ayahuasca is another version that's gaining more and more popularity. So each one of these has a different tool to change a different part of neurochemistry, enabling different change. And part of my growth through my post-traumatic stress has come through utilizing these things, and that's part of what we've been working with different people to start leveraging as a means to treat this. But we're probably 6 months to a year out from all of this being legal. The psilocybin and MDMA have been in phase 3 clinical trials for 3 years. Like, we're 6 months from that being legal, and the effects are staggering, right? I struggled with severe post-traumatic stress for 10 years with hardly any gains, and I did anything I could get my hands on, any help I could get. Utilizing these things, I've made more progress in a year than I did in 10 years. And so there's a lot of opportunity. The warning that I'll put out with this, and this is an important one, there's 3 things that you have to be concerned about if you're going to pursue this any which way, and it's becoming more and more popular, so I think it's important to share this. The first thing is dosing. Like, you have to be really careful with dosing, because you can have a negative effect if you have too much. So it isn't like, oh, this was good, so give me more. That doesn't work that way. The second thing is the environment in which you're doing it. Right? If you leverage these tools in a bad environment, you can cause yourself damage. And the biggest thing is a controlled environment, an environment where you're going to be safe. And the last part of this, the big thing to be worried about, is the people you're around. So, and saying, well, okay, I'm just going to buy some mushrooms off the street, think about my traumas in my room by myself, like, that's not going to work well. Because the psychedelics, they just turn the volume up. So if you go into it scared, like, you're going to be scared times 10. And so being able to make sure that dosing is right, the environment is right, and the people that are around you are the right people are critical for having this be successful and useful, as opposed to damaging. So those are the warning.
When you say people, just give me an example. You mean like doctors, therapists?
Yeah, so there are,
clinic?
you can find people that will leverage these technology, and there's some that are legal, right, because of the trials. So I mean, we're close, like we're really close to this getting over line. Tim Ferriss is another big proponent of this, so there's all sorts of research on it. Making sure it's, like, again, if you take MDMA, if I take a whole lot of it at a bar with my buddies, you're just doing drugs, right? Like that's not you're not
healing your subconscious.
Good. Yeah, you're not healing your subconscious. If you're taking a minor dose to turn off your adrenal response, a very small dose in a isolated environment where I'm in a bed with a mask on, sitting next to someone that has been trained in how to guide you through this journey, that's could be one of the biggest gifts you've ever had.
Interesting, man. And this helps with PTSD?
Yeah. Like I said, like we talked about earlier, I just call it post-traumatic stress. It's not a disorder because...
You drop the D.
Yeah, I dropped the D because, like in my example, for 10 years, people tried to kill me on a daily basis. One of the effects of that is I worry about people killing me on a daily basis. That's valid. Like someone that was in this environment should feel this way. That's not a disorder. It's just stress from being in a traumatic environment that I'm bringing into a safe environment.
And let me back up a little bit on the, let's say, lower end side of trauma. Okay. If someone's listening right now and they don't have some massive trauma of abuse as a child or whatever it was, right? It doesn't mean that everybody needs to go apply that method to their trauma?
Not necessarily. I mean, the biggest thing
meditation could.
The biggest thing is the trauma causing problems in your life or not, right? It doesn't become post-traumatic stress until the environment changed. So when I was a SEAL, what is today considered post-traumatic stress was considered me doing really good at my job, right? Because I was in an environment where people were trying to kill me. Therefore, acting like that was good. As soon as the environment changed and no longer is anyone trying to kill me, when I act like someone's trying to kill me, someone's like, what's wrong with you?
Now it's bad.
Yeah. Why are you sitting in the corner with a knife looking like you're going to kill everyone in the room? I don't know, because I do know, for 10 years, everyone in the room is trying to kill me. Now that you all aren't, doesn't mean that it doesn't still feel like that. So that's where now all of a sudden this trauma is causing trouble. So when it causes trouble in your life, you should do something about that. But what I'm doing that I haven't really seen anyone else do is saying, I'm applying this to business. And I'm looking, because I'd look at companies and everything's good with a company, right? Everything's sound, the teams are good, the product's good, everything's in alignment, yet they couldn't go anywhere. That's when I realized, it's because the CEO is holding on to a trauma from when he was 7 and got picked on in school. And he's still holding on to that. So he's got to prove to everyone, right? Because he learned when he was a little kid being bullied that no one's going to love him, everyone's going to hurt him unless he proved his worth. So now this guy, he's now running a $10 million a year company, and he has to prove his worth every day. So how does he prove his worth? Well, he makes problems in his business that only he can solve. Of course, right? Subconsciously that would work, because if I make problems and I'm the only one that can solve it, I'm proving my worth, and Johnny that was 7 gets to see people will like you. Well, the company can't get any bigger. As soon as you take away his need to have to prove his worth, now all of a sudden the company's 100 million, because everything's set, everything's going, but he keeps holding it back because of his going back to you, right?
Let's not do that.
Yeah, let's jump right back into there. You open the worms, right? So, constantly getting to a place where it's this big, and then I got to change and hand it off, right? Getting that point of not having to always evolve, what would be true if you've made it, you've learned everything you need to learn. You've got, and I'm not saying you aren't going to learn a little, but I'm saying those big shifts, you don't have to do that anymore. Now all of a sudden things can go 3-4 times bigger.
I'm going to take the money for a second, or the money show. Obviously a lot of people, as you're talking through this, I'm thinking through trauma, a lot of people that I've interviewed even grew up super poor, right? It's a common kind of theme, if you will, for a lot of entrepreneurs. And the reason they go into business
to prove it, never have that happen again.
Never have that happen again. I mean, that answer happens I don't know, 8 out of 10 guests, right, talk about that.
Yeah.
And the reason that they had this poor traumatic experience in their life, and they didn't have food as a kid or food stamps, whatever it was, right? And now they went and built this business so that their kids don't have to go through it or whatever it is.
So let me pause there because I want to ask something. I think I know the answer to it. How many of them would you assess are really enjoying their money?
Really enjoying their money.
I'll bet few.
It's a tough answer because I know all the details, but I would just in a broad stroke, I would agree with you that I think it's probably fewer than more.
Yeah, it's less.
Yes, less than the average, if you will.
Yeah.
That are actually probably truly enjoying.
Yeah, and
money.
leveraging it. Mm-hmm. And that's the trauma.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, because the trauma is driving you're gonna be poor. Therefore, you got to earn, create, produce, build, and they're crunching at that, and they keep stacking up accomplishments and money and cars and houses and all that stuff. But if you're asked, like, how safe do you feel? And if they were vulnerable, like, not very safe, like, because all this is going to go away at some point, because I'm going to be back. I'm being driven by the trauma.
Right.
And being able
to creating it.
Yeah. So, like, to me, I can have all the money, all the cars, all the houses in the world, but if I'm not enjoying it, if I'm not able to really feel success in that today, well, what's the point?
Right. One more question here for you. I'm going to try to apply some of this stuff to your training, consulting, so forth, to business owners watching right now. What would be some of like maybe what would you tell them for how to start, maybe the first steps of how to start their business?
This is going to be an answer that we already talked about again. So the biggest barrier to starting a business is getting over, one, the fear of what's going to happen, and two, the norm. Because you're in a norm, and odds are decently, you're at least okay. You might not be happy, but you're okay. Because if you were truly not okay, you'd be in action.
Okay.
Right? You'd be doing something. And so the biggest thing for me beyond that, how do we get over fear, learn, practice, gain experience, right? We have that. The biggest thing is building ambition.
Okay.
Right? Ambition is the desire to change my current situation into a different future situation. So a lot of people sitting here that are watching say, I have ambition to start a business, yet for 9 years they haven't. So that's not true, right? That's a lie.
Okay.
If you are in the same place you've been for 9 years, then you want it to stay the same. So in order to build ambition, there's 3 parts. The first part is I have to be dissatisfied with my current situation. So if you want to build ambition to start a business, you need to get really clear on why today is not good. What are all the things today that aren't the way you want them? The second thing is I have to be really clear on what tomorrow looks like. What is the good of tomorrow? And so and there's all sorts of visioning exercises, like what is it going to look like and feel like when this business is successful? So that's not earth-shattering. The last part, and this is what stops most people from doing it, I can be completely dissatisfied with today, completely clear on what tomorrow looks like and feels like and how good it's going to be, but if I don't have the perception of the power to do it, if I don't think I can do that, make that change, I'm not going to go anywhere.
Interesting.
And that perception of power comes back to what we just talked about. Power is the ability to influence change, and I gain power by learning, practicing, gaining experience. So if you're stuck, it's either because you're not clear on why today is no good, you're not clear on how good tomorrow is going to be, or you don't have the perception of power to do it. And if that's the case, we need to be learning, practicing, gaining experience.
So if they want to start a business, what you're saying is the first step would be nail down that ambition.
100, because that ambition is the drive. That's going to be the fuel that enables me to do all of the hard actions that are going to, it's going to take to build it.
Gasoline to the car, if you will. And without it, the car's not going to go anywhere.
And entrepreneurship is not easy. Like we had that brief, kind of conversation around SEAL training, and by far, without a shadow of a doubt, the worst, hardest thing I've ever been through in my life is building my business. I would go through SEAL training 10 times over. I go to combat 10 times over than start this business again. I mean, it is hard. And that's why most people can't do it.
Yeah.
And so what enabled me to do it? Strong ambition, courage, taking action despite fear, and just pure grit, like just hard work.
So they want to start, get ambition, use those 3 points to do it, which then drives back to your perception of power.
Yeah, learn, practice,
which is those three things: learn, practice, and gain experience.
Yep.
Those are kind of the stepping stones to go start your business.
That's and to start anything.
Start a relationship.
Start a relationship.
I'm going to think here for a second. I'm gonna maybe use myself as one more example. I'm going to make sure.
Proud of you,
make
man.
sure I don't open up a bag of another worms on myself here. So I'm going to use the ambition. I'm going to see if you can apply it. I don't know if it works or not. So obviously a lot of people, right, deal with being overweight.
Yeah.
Right. So I got way athletic and then got way overweight, right, and got up to like to 275. And as you're going through ambition, I'm trying to see if that's what I used, because right now I cut like 40. I think I'm 44 pounds.
Congrats, man. Good job.
And I had like 25 more to go. Right, I'm gonna keep going. And I'm trying to figure out, did I use the ambition without knowing it?
Yeah.
But what drove it? You know what I mean? Because eventually the dissatisfied part hit as you were going through it, right? Where you get like frustrated, pissed off, mad.
And you already knew what it felt. You already knew the future, because you already knew what it felt like, both emotionally and physically, to be healthy. So you had those two pieces.
And then the last piece would have been,
what was the thing that triggered it? That triggered the change?
One of my partners. Yeah, I'm not going to mention names, but yeah.
What did they do?
Bitch slapped me.
And so
in a polite way.
So probably what they did was bring you present to how bad the current situation was and or trajectory. They might have been like, hey, this is where you're headed, buddy. Do you want to go there? Which is the same thing about dissatisfaction with the present. Because it's really easy when we're busy entrepreneurs to not pay attention to where we are
you
today.
Give up certain things and justify it, right?
Yeah.
There's an easy way to justify it when you're successful in one area and then you ignore this area over here. And you miss out on all the balance of life.
And so they finally, what he did was bring you present to, hey, look how bad today is, and look where you're headed. And you're like, all of a sudden now I got ambition to change. Because you already knew how, because you've been fit before. You already knew what it was like to be fit and feel healthy.
So
and so it was present.
A lot of entrepreneurs struggle with that as well. Someone's watching right now and has been frustrated with their weight for 15 years. Are you saying it still goes back to, you got to find the ambition
start by building ambition. The second thing, and this is a core tenet of what we leverage and teach in almost everything we do, is self-regulation. So mental, physical, emotional self-regulation is what produces my behavior. My behavior produces my team produces my success.
Okay.
Right? So that's the line. Self-regulation, mental, physical, emotional, is controlled by the same parts of the brain, two parts of the brain. And so the biggest thing we have to do is build that muscle. So we're either building a quitting muscle or a perseverance muscle. If the method I'll teach people, if you want to start getting more fit, is you got to take little baby steps, because what people will do is do a big thing, like I stop eating, I start working out, that lasts for a week, and then I quit because I don't have the fuel in my self-regulation banks. So what I'll do is little tiny steps. So start with, whenever you want to eat, do whatever you want to do, the bad thing, eat, drink, whatever the case may be. Journal, just take a note of it. Are you trying to escape something? Are you trying to fill some sort of gap, or is it a habit? And all I do is pay attention to it.
So the three questions are you trying to escape something, fill a gap, or what was the last one?
Is it a habit? So let's say we finish, so we walk out and there's donuts on the counter out there. And I walk past the donuts, I see the donuts, and I feel like I messed up this show.
Okay.
And I'm feeling down. And I want to escape from feeling
that feeling right there.
Sad.
Okay.
Because I messed this up.
Okay.
So I shove my face with the donuts. That would be escape. Say I walk past the donuts and it's, I'm bored. Like I just gap. I don't want to sit here and, I'm bored, because you're like, hey, Larry, sit out here for a minute. We got to do some other stuff. I'm sitting here. I don't have my phone. I don't have Wi-Fi. Oh, I want to fill the gap. So I fill the gap with eating something.
Okay.
That'd be another example. Or habit. Oh, there's donuts. I always eat a donut. I eat the donut. I don't even think about it.
Right.
So that's the first step in trying to identify what to do, because then you can start addressing those things. Well, like, okay, how do I tie something else to when I'm sad?
Right.
How do I make sure I fill my gaps so that I don't have to fill it with donuts? And how do I change my environment so my habit doesn't get triggered? That'd be the first the first step in it. Just journal that and don't stop. Like, still eat the donut. Like, don't use self-regulation. Just journal. What you'll notice is by just making note of what that is, you're going to eat less.
Is that the emotional regulation?
Well, it could be that I'm hungry, so it could be physical or emotional regulation. Would be if I'm sad, using donuts to fill the gap would be emotional. And habit would be mental. I'm not focused. Like, oh wait, I get to choose when I eat my donuts.
Right.
Yeah, that's the first step.
It's one of those things that I think so many entrepreneurs I think struggle. I think actually obviously America in general is an obese country, right? Like the percentage wise. To me, it seems like a lot of it has to do with the emotional side of feeling depressed, anxiety, not successful. I didn't make the money, and it seems like it's doing it for the emotional side, not to fill in the gap. What was the other one? The first one.
Escape.
I
want to escape. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's probably the main one that a lot of
you're going to see a lot. The escape. That's what I realized. Like I've over the last year and a half. I mean, I didn't drink a lot, but I drank regularly. I don't know. It was, beer every so often. And I realized as the business was getting harder and harder, I was drinking more and more. Like it was like every day. Right. But I could go a week without doing it. So I knew I wasn't an alcoholic. I wasn't hooked to it. It was quite a bit. And I was not eating as well. And I'm a very well-regulated person. And so over the last year and a half, I haven't had any caffeine, any alcohol, and any processed sugar for almost a year and a half. And it took some time. And eventually when you get your self right, part of it has been my healing. Like, I don't have anything to escape from anymore. So I remove those things to escape from. The gaps, right? The gaps that I was trying to fill, I fill with positive things like mountain biking instead of trying to self-medicate. And on the habits, I was very clear on what habits were being triggered, and I changed my environment so we didn't have those triggers. And when you do it systematically, like, you can make a change, and it's not a struggle with doing it.
Yeah, I mean, as you're going through that, I didn't classify it, this stuff, because I wasn't with you at the point. But I mean, I think looking back, I was seeing like all three of those categories where there were. The big piece was probably the first side of the escape side, right? Of you're doing a deal, it doesn't go through, or you're trying to close something, it doesn't happen, whatever it is, and there's the escape, like almost like a failure, and then you go eat this because you want to feel good for a moment, right? And then there's the gap side where I'm thinking about like going to movies. Airplane rides, because I was flying every week.
The airport was horrible for that.
So my book bags almost became a bag of goodies.
For me, it was the Jack and Cokes, because I got into first class
and then the other piece you said was the habits, and I got in some horrible habits of eating like literally like in bed, watching TV or whatever, comatosing for my day, and it was just like all three of them were just brutal. And as you went through them, I'm trying to classify what they were for me, and I was saying all three of those categories right there. It's unique, man. There's so many other freaking questions I want to get into with you on the mind side, because I love the mental side of business and life, and it's amazing how much
the solution to everything.
It has.
Yeah, I mean, it's the solution at all.
Is all mental side of everything. Even you said in the Navy SEALs.
You think it was physical, and it wasn't.
Not the physical. It wasn't like when I was saying it wasn't the guy who was the most athletic football player.
No, I mean we had
it was the mental side.
The story that I share is that we had two guys that started my class. One was he was a helicopter pilot, so he was 23, which was older, but that meant he was more mature. He had more experience. He was a Rhodes Scholar, super smart guy, and he was ranked 3rd in the nation in Ironman length triathlon. So like he was literally built to be a SEAL. And we had Seaman Wright, who came from Iowa, that was 35 pounds overweight when he showed up, and to pass like the basic test, he had to do like 10 pull-ups. He did like 9 3/4, like just enough on everything. And that guy, I can't even remember his name, he quit the second day of Hell Week. Yeah. And Seaman Wright graduated.
And as one of the 11.
One of the 11.
That's crazy.
And it blew my mind, and what I realized was what a Captain America guy, he'd never gone through any trauma. He'd never gone through anything rough his whole life. So the first time he truly got tested, like he worked on his own natural ability his whole life and had success. When he fully got tested, he didn't have anything in the bank. And Seaman Wright grew up on a dairy farm in Iowa
Right.
that was struggled his whole life in everything, and he had what it took. And so, again, if you're sitting out here watching it and you're worrying about getting started on this business, like, think about all the hard stuff you've been through, and that's the fuel that's going to enable you to be successful. Like, that isn't the thing that is holding you back. That's the thing that's going to help you.
I love it, man. I want to ask you the question about money for a second here. Obviously, the whole reason we do the show is diving into the money is blank, and we got this sign here of you, Larry. And so I'm going to give it to you. Fill the answer in here, whatever it is. Sign it kind of right here, and then me and you kind of go through it together. Give me the Sharpie.
My spelling is horrible, so if we spell this wrong.
You would not be the first guest that we've had someone misspell.
Yeah, I might have to look this up.
The other one that I always tell everybody was it was an attorney, so don't feel bad.
Yeah.
The attorney spelled it wrong.
Spelling is not a assessment of intelligence. I looked that up to be sure about that.
Just to confirm it?
Yeah. I think there's another S in here.
We can always fix it.
There we go. Now sign this.
Yeah, right there. You got it real big right there. There we go.
There we go. I
Is
think
it?
there is
You
one
got it?
more
You think
S
it's
in
right?
there.
Let's see here. Okay. Yeah, no one ever gave this answer.
That's good.
Yeah, no one ever gave this answer. Larry's answer was money is no unnecessary compromises. I'm saying that right with you?
Yeah.
Money is no unnecessary compromises. Okay. Break it down. Break it down for me. What does that mean? Money is no unnecessary compromises.
To me, the core driver for my success has always been my team, right? That's what's enabled me to be alive, was my SEAL team, and what enables me to change people's lives now is the team that I've built. And the biggest thing we lever for organizations and people is their ability to team. And when it comes to that, the better your team is, the less you have to compromise, the less you have to say no. And to me, money is just a tool for that, right? If I have a lot of money, if money is just a contract for me to enable organization with you, if I can do that, I don't have to compromise, right? I don't have to make choices I don't want to make.
Yes, it's so. I knew you were going to give. I think you have a very high IQ, and I knew you were going to come up with a very unique answer. And it's a good one, dude. Money is no unnecessary compromises. And you're saying it from the standpoint of when you have money, you don't have to make those compromises.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, when we don't have money, what do we have to do? We have
gotta
to choose
compromise,
between
right?
this and this. I have to
Yeah.
not do what I need to do. I have to not.
Because money is not allowing you to make this choice, therefore you have to make a compromise to go do this instead.
Exactly.
Of whatever it is, right? And when you have it, you don't have to make those unnecessary compromises that you really don't want to make and you wish you didn't have to make.
Yep.
All the way down to a very, very small level of freaking a mom at a grocery store and what she's buying for food. There's when you don't have money, there's always that compromise of what are you getting, what are you feeding, you know, that goes into it. So awesome answer, man. I'm gonna give you one more thing here. I'm gonna kind of give you the floor here for just a second. And actually, let me back up because I got so deep in myself. I told you
I'm going to charge you later, buddy. Just so you know, this wasn't free.
Yeah, I can't wait to get this bill.
Work through it.
You got a book coming out.
Yeah.
That's launching right around the corner here. You're writing the book. Give me the title of the book.
The title of the book is How Leadership Actually Works.
How Leadership Actually Works.
Yeah.
Inside the book, are you diving through a lot of this stuff that we kind of went through here?
Yeah. We've been working with companies from individuals just starting up to billion-dollar organizations for 7 years now, a lot. And what I've identified is there is a core system, a core set of pillars that enables companies to have success or individuals to have success. So that's what we're laying out. And it leads to the ability to organize and manage and lead other people, which becomes the most important thing in our life. As a father, that's what I do with my
Right.
children. As a husband, that's what I do with my wife. And as a business owner, as a CEO, that's what I do with my team. And so that ability to coordinate action with others, that ability to lead is fundamentally sound. And so that's what we lay out, that fundamental system. And what I love about what we do is because I'm an engineer brain, this is full functional. Like there is no, and we knock down so many of the theories that people try to tell you, oh, this is all you have to do. You just have to hustle, you just have to work hard, and that is not enough to produce success in your life.
Sure.
So we're going to give you the fundamental principles. The warning I have to give is it's dense. As you can tell from this conversation, I don't speak with a lot of fluff, and we had to take, it was 124,000 words, and I had to edit it down to 50,000 words. So
brutal experience.
Yeah,
for
some
you.
brains are going to be melted in this, but you'll be a better person at the end of it.
If they want to copy the book, where they go?
HowLeadershipActuallyWorks.com. Yeah, it's just the title of the book.
Just .com. HowLeadershipActuallyWorks.com. Then go get the book there.
Yep.
When you release it, I want you to give me a dibs of a signed copy of it.
Hell yeah.
For it, and I'll put it on my Instagram. And I know you right now, you got the whole training consulting, which we didn't even really get into. I guess we did get into it because you did it live.
Yeah, I did it live.
Here. But you have the whole training consulting online business as well, virtual business that you do as well for businesses, startups as well as
individuals up to multi-million-dollar companies. We run a series of training programs, and what's neat about our model is it's a hybrid model. So it's not just digital, and it's not just coaching. We cover the full gamut. So every course we run has a component of digital content they consume, live virtual training. So we do live classes on a regular basis via Zoom, and we have a team of facilitators and coaches that do one-on-one coaching with every student. So regardless of if you're bringing your company team in, your executive team or your management team, or if you're doing this as an individual, you're going to get that full gamut of it.
Of exposure there. What if they want more information about that side of it, not the book, but let's say they want just right now training, consulting, where do they go for that one?
SEALTeamLeaders.com.
The main company name.
Yeah, it's just the main company name. You'll see it. We have that training. And then since you went there, we weren't necessarily planning on it. The work that I'm doing at the very high level with that trauma work, we do on a very select basis. So we only take a couple clients a year, but if you're in charge of a big company and you've been stuck for a while, we can help with that, and it's very quick. The other, we're doing one session, maybe two, and we'll change your entire life and business. And
is that in person or is that virtual?
Yeah, that's in person. My wife, my business partner, she is a master's in international security and anti-terrorism from Georgetown, so she was working in the intelligence fields while I was on the front lines. And when we work on this level with either very senior or generally CEOs, it's just with us, and
just you two.
Yeah, we just love it because it's some of the hardest work we do by far. And every time, for the first 4 or 5 times we did this, we got done and we looked at each other like, we can't do this anymore. And then we see their face the next day, and we can tell that just in their eyes that their life's changed. And every time we're like, we're stuck. So we're working on, within the next year, we'll start doing this in very small groups, and that'll become a little more accessible. But that ability, part of the reason I do this is I'm still working through my trauma. I mean, I'm never going to be healed. I'm just going to keep getting better and better. And whenever I get to guide someone through their traumatic journey into freedom from that, I'm helping myself. So to some degree, it is still somewhat selfish.
I mean, obviously you have, I would assume, probably way deep PTS. From the 10 years or so that you were in the Navy.
Yeah, and I didn't choose to stop being a SEAL. I got injured badly and went through some really horrible times in the hospital for years. Drugs, hospital, the full gamut, surgeries that went horribly bad. I can't feel large parts of my body. They said that I wouldn't walk without a cane for the rest of my life, and that stuff caused deep wounds I'm still working through. But blazing that trail has enabled me to develop processes and tools that that are very, very effective.
Yeah, I mean, it's also nice when you work with somebody who actually has experienced,
Yeah.
the trauma, the PTS, that understands it at
Yeah,
extremely
I've
high
walked
levels.
the path. There's no one I've worked with that I haven't seen
Felt the
it.
pain and understand
Yeah.
the pain emotionally, mentally, et cetera, right? And then what about just you, Larry, just in general? If someone wants to follow you, social media, wherever it is, if they want to get more from
so
Larry.
I have a personal site. It's
Okay.
Larry at 360.com. So
Okay.
Larry, Larry, 360, no dots, no nothing.
Just the numbers, 360.
Just number 360.com.
We'll call that the show notes for you. And then last thing I give you here is, I'm sure that viewers are as enamored as I am. Probably 1,000 other questions here. If I just gave you a minute or two, kind of final words of wisdom that you'd give the business owners watching, investors that are watching, what's some final thoughts or words of wisdom you'd give them?
This is a big one because this changed our life. We had 3 successful companies in Minneapolis and we were miserable. So this is to speak to either the person that's on the way into the entrepreneurial space or someone that's been in there for a while. I used to believe that struggle was required to produce success, right? And if I was to ask you, like, can you have success without having to put hard work into it and make it hard? All of you would say yes. Like, yeah, you have to put in a lot of hard work to produce success, and that's a lie. That isn't true. It is possible to produce success and enjoy yourself, and it can be easy. The way that you make it easy is by teaming with the right people, right? If you have struggle in your life, even if you have accomplishments, that is not the end state. That's not where you want to be. Your job is to produce an optimized daily experience that's sustainable over time. And that is true success. And you can only do that by coordinating action with the right people. So if you have struggle in your life, look at what team do I need to get on, what team do I need to get off, or what team do I need to make better, and you'll be able to produce that optimized daily experience, do it over time, and experience success today, not someday in the future.
Yeah, man, I love that advice because as so many times entrepreneurs, we always feel like success is down that road.
Oh yeah, struggle today, work hard.
It's never here. It's always later, and that's where I'm headed to. But you're never really here. And having that success today, just let it be today that you're successful. Yeah. And I totally agree with the concept of struggle and hustle, which is to me such a misused, glorified concept in business that we have today, that you have to go struggle and you have to go hustle this. And there is hustle. I don't want to misunderstand the concept.
I exchange with persevere. Like, persevere. Like, things get hard, work through the hard, but it isn't hustle and struggle. And
that's a better
pain.
word, I think. Persevere. It's always going to be hard. Business, like you said, is like harder than, in your words. I don't know if I would said that.
It is,
harder
man.
Than Navy SEAL.
I'd rather go through buds again than start another business.
And it's always going to be hard, but it's the perseverance through it, not glorifying I'm going to run 90 miles an hour, my head into a wall over and over and over again, and one day become successful. Great advice, Larry. I love having the show. Hopefully we can do some more stuff with you, and I can maybe get some therapy sessions from you.
Yeah, we just started, man. I want to go back to your 7-year-old Andrew, see what's showing up down there.
I don't know about 7-year-old
We'll have some
Andrew.
fun.
Yeah. You may. I don't know if I would.
Yeah.
But we'll maybe record it and
we'll do it on a bike ride.
It'd be even better. Appreciate you being on the show, Larry. We'll get back into it. Guys, I appreciate you watching the Money Show. This is Larry Yatch, and you guys can follow him at Larry360.com.